Welcome to another episode of the Ground Control Podcast. I am Patrick Reif, and I am stoked that you are here today. For today's podcast, we're going to focus on an initiative that I launched, almost 2 years ago, and then scuttled very quickly. And because I didn't really understand what I was trying to do with it, but also because V1 was not where it was at, and V2 is very much going to be where it is at. So without further ado, welcome to the Ground Control Podcast. So as I mentioned, I'm excited today to talk a little bit about something that is called Baltimore Creators. So for all of my people out there listening in places that are not Baltimore, I would love to think that this episode could inspire you to do something similar in your space if the interest is there. If it is not, obviously, I hope you just enjoyed listening in. And if you are here in Baltimore, this podcast is for you, particularly if you're an entrepreneur or you're a builder or a creative founder, someone inside of that space that is just interested in the world. So that being said, yes, relaunch of Baltimore Creators is coming. V2, Baltimore Creators V2. And I'm kicking it off with something called Builder Fridays. I think that's what it's called. We'll have to check the website. Things move so fast these days. But Builder Fridays is very much inspired by a notion that I've had for a very long time. And that is wanting to draw people who are in the entrepreneurial founder startup ecosystem, but really to do so with a specific purpose that is more actionable. So I have maybe not so much on this podcast yet, but if you know me at all, you know that over the last decade, I've been involved in lots of entrepreneurial activities and community building here in Baltimore. So for a long time, my business partner, Nicholas Kina, and I, we ran a entrepreneurs startup community called Startup Soiree. And what Startup Soiree was a monthly kind of networking event that had a live interview component that took place in the center of it. And the whole idea was 3-hour long party, an hour of some good food and drinks and mingling and hanging out with good music, and then 45 minutes or an hour of a live interview that I would conduct with a entrepreneur or a founder or someone here doing cool things in our city. And it was very much an interview that would segue into a town hall, because we wanted to figure out how to extract all of the good questions from our community that was there. It was about kind of priming the pump to get people sharing their own ideas. And then when it was done, the idea was cut the interview off when it was hot and heavy, and then send everybody back into kind of the networking phase. So that was the live component. And then what we did to make it successful was should say to market it, was we had a podcast, and we also had a pretty active blog. And what we would do is we would publish content on the blogs. We would write our own content, but then we would also allow other businesses and entrepreneurs to guest write onto the blog as well. And then I would do these interview formats with business owners, startup owners, founder owners, just kind of talking about what they were building and really bringing it back to light. So we were doing that for a while, and I would say certainly things like that existed previous to us, but I think that when we did it, the city was in a little bit of a lull for that kind of programming. So what we were doing stood out, and it felt really great, and like we were in a bit of a blue ocean for a while. And then with all things, an evolution happens and things change, and more of that type of programming started to happen, and it didn't feel quite as unique. And we were kind of also evolving and wanting to focus our energies on different things. So the long story short, it came to its natural conclusion, which was wonderful. And then in the ensuing years, once or twice, we kind of tried to power it back up, but it was a little half-hearted. One, because just going back into doing a networking thing just didn't feel as exciting for us to do. So for that reason, it never kind of took back over again. when I launched Baltimore Creators V1 2 years ago, the idea was, okay, there are all of these in-person networking events that are really great, but post-event, making connections to build off of that doesn't happen as easily. And like social media platforms, algorithmically, you're often not seeing what you want to see. You're not being shown the content from connections that you're related to. So my idea became, why don't we create a online community? And I used the platform School, SKOOL, to do it. And the idea was, this is the thing that will tie people together post live networking events, post startup and small business and founder based events. And what I found at that point in time was, one, I don't know that or at least at that point in time, I don't know that I was the ideal person to organize that, because I didn't actually want to be online more than I already was. But two, it didn't have the right onboarding for it, right? Like, it was very hard to find people, and from a bandwidth perspective, I wasn't really able to do it as much. So after a couple months of kind of half-heartedly trying and having middling results, I kind of just let it go to pasture, if you will. So fast forward over the past 2 years, I've thought about it a lot, right? Like, I do like community organizing. I don't necessarily love how constant you need to be in it. Like, it is definitely a Herculean effort to build a local community, and to continue marketing it, and to continue tying people together. But that being said, I still think about it all the time. And more so, what I've thought about was really wanting to have that community-based event, that live thing, not be based in networking, and not really be based exclusively into this kind of interview concept either, but to instead be based in something that is more skills oriented. Because what I don't think happens enough in our local ecosystem are people finding ways to connect around what they're actually doing, as opposed to just kind of like chatting about business in like a general sense. I really want, like, so for instance, a lot of times networking events, uh, the things that you end up chatting about aren't necessarily based in your business. They ended up being more about niceties and what are you doing, and just whatever the flavor of the day is. And I really wanted a series of events that were focused on building stuff, on like what's going on now. What are people here in Baltimore building? How are they building that? How is um, uh, the evolving technology landscape changing how they're thinking about things? How are the different companies and businesses that are emerging around the world influencing ideas that are here? How does the local flavor of our city here in Baltimore influence what we're building? I've long talked about, um, Baltimore does a lot of government style innovation. There's a lot of healthcare and healthcare technology stuff that happens here, which is fine and good. However, I think that the broad subset of gritty entrepreneurs that Baltimore has under the base layer, I don't think that they're healthcare entrepreneurs. I don't think that they're entrepreneurs that are going to build things for government acquisition. I think that there's a massive, not think, I know that there's a massive creative class that is here that want to build things like that. And for that reason, I feel like there's never been a great outlet for those types of people to organize with the sole purpose of actually building a business. We've got some good creative meetups. We've got some good people that are in that space that meet for the sake of content or for marketing or things along those lines. But not necessarily how does that get married to actually building product. So, as I have talked about a lot here on this podcast, is I have gone from being an entrepreneur for, a decade and a half, and building a lot of things myself, and having partners to do so, but always being in a position of non-technical um, standards, right? Like I could never build things myself because I was not a coder, because I was a non-technical founder. So I could come up with ideas, but then I needed to find people to be able to build those things with. And now with the advent of frankly, Claude Code, being able to find easy tutorials to learn how to set up a VS Code terminal and plug Gemini or Claude Code or ChatGPT's codex inside of a terminal and to be assisted to build things was a game changer. Right now, with Claude Cowork and really, frankly, the Claude Code terminal that has been built into the Anthropic Claude interface, like it gets easier. As we know from the last podcast, I punted a week of recording and publishing because I was enamored with, what then was called Claude Bot, right? And I just said Claude a lot, right? Before I was talking about CLAUDE, right? The Anthropic tool, and now what I'm talking about is CLAWD, which has since turned into Moltbot, and it may have even evolved one more time into something else, but this whole side of access to coding technology for non-technical people, I don't think I'm the only one by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be a whole new realm of non-technical builders that are out there. And I want to harvest the opportunity around that. Enter Baltimore Creators V2. So like, let me get into that a little bit more and kind of what I have in mind. What I have in mind for Baltimore Creators 2 is it's going to start with one single type of event. And I think that down the line, it's going to spawn into more opportunities, more content, more things for sure. Like I definitely have grand designs on it again, because frankly, I'm incapable of not becoming overly enthusiastic about everything that comes across my brain. But to kick things off, what I have planned is something called Builder Fridays, and Builder Fridays, at least as of now, are going to happen on the first Monday of every month. We're going to kick the first one off the first Monday, or sorry, wrong, the first Friday of every month. And I'm going to kick the first one off the first Friday of March. Today is February 13th. I had thought about making it the last Friday of every month, but then I didn't get time to talk about this. And for that reason, we're pushing things back. So we're going to push back, and we're going to focus on trying to do things on the first Friday of every month. And the way that we're going to kick it off is, I think, something that's going to be a little unique, a little special. So there will be a ticket to be able to attend the event because we only have so much capacity. But the way that it's going to work is we're going to host at least the first few out here at 3200 James Street, which is where my offices are. And we have this big space that is here, and it used to be the Pixelated headquarters where we would host our Startup Soiree event. So it's a perfect event space. But the way that it's going to work is the runtime for the entire quote unquote event is going to be 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. But what's going to happen is the actual event is going to run from 3 to 5 p.m. And the tone of those events is going to change on a month by month basis. So maybe the first one will be show us what you're building. And there'll be a spot for people that buy tickets to also be able to submit to be one of those 3 to 5 presenters during that period of time. And the format is going to be like, what are you building from scratch? You solopreneur, you duo team. What are you building from scratch using all of these new tools that are available to you? So we will not turn our backs on people that are technical founders by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly being able to feature people that are non-technical founders that are finding their way into building cool stuff, right? That are finding their way into trying to build something within a unique set of parameters. Like I think that those examples are going to be really enticing and exciting for people to watch. Case in point, last Friday, I took my kids skiing, and I kind of knew I was going to do this, but I formatted the idea on the drive out to Ski Liberty to go and have a day. But what I challenged myself to do was I challenged myself to build a tool exclusively while I was at the ski resort, exclusively from my phone while I was on the ski lift between runs. And I kicked off prompt number one when I ran to the bathroom before we like suited up. And then I proceeded to build the entire thing on the ski lift with, voice commands into AI code tools. And by the time I was done that day, I had a 100% working prototype that I was able to use, which was fucking cool. So for me, and I'm going to get into that. I think that we'll chat about that experience next week. But for me, that is illustrative of exactly the moment and the opportunity that we're in here now. And I think that by showing that off to more people, we're going to inspire more people to take that idea that they've had forever and realize that, like, for lack of a better term, they can fuck around and find out. I was on a panel last night and someone asked me about um, potentially outsourcing market research because she is a parent and has a great idea and really wants to make it work, but she doesn't have the bandwidth right now to like be doing all this market research. To which I said to her, spending 25 minutes inside of a GPT or Claude talking about um, what that product market research would look like, and then building some kind of Claude skill that you can just trigger like that, and then it goes out and does the research for you, and all you have to do is read the tea leaves after the fact, is a very real opportunity. Like, those are the kind of things that she was an AI developer, right? She works in the space, but putting that opportunity together with her problem just didn't dawn on her because she's just not seeing where everything that she's doing in her day job can be exploited and rewired for her needs to launch her own thing. So I very much feel like those are the kind of projects that will be really fun, right? So show us what you're building will be one. I think that, um, probably doing like some codeathons where the whole idea is to come in with no idea, and maybe we'll crowdsource the ideas, and you'll have to pull something out of a hat, and you have to build that thing that you pull out of a hat. Like, the gamifying side of this is what we're going to do. That's going to be 3 to 5 o'clock. What's going to happen from 10 to 3 o'clock is, again, we've got this great space that's here. So what I want to do is I really want to do a day of co-working that precedes it, right? So for your ticket price, not only are you going to get access to the event that happens from 3 to 5, not only will you get access to be able to submit your idea to potentially be a presenter, but you're also going to get access to co-work alongside people of the same milieu, right? People that are thinking along those same lines with you, right? We're all going to be here. We're going to be in this space. We're going to be building stuff. We're going to be able to get feedback, hang out, chat about the things that are exciting. One of the things that I know is when I connect with other people um, who are trying these new tools, doing these new things, the excitement is palpable. And when we find ourselves in the company of one another, it's just enthusiasm, because this feels like such an adventurous new period of time. And I'm not the only one that thinks that, and they're not the only one that thinks that. And to get a chance to just vibe about it, no pun intended in the vibe code conversation, but that's what V2 of Baltimore Creators is going to be like, right? It's going to be an event first Fridays of every month, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. 10 to 3 is going to be co-working alongside like-minded people in a cool space, and then 3 to 5 is going to be a really cool programmed event that's capitalizing on what we're talking about. So that is kind of generally what I have in mind for the relaunch. So for everybody that's just listened and is hearing this thing, and they're sitting on the fence and saying like, oh, this sounds cool, but is it for me? Is it not for me? First and foremost, if you're asking yourself that question, it's for you. But to be a little bit more specific, I would say this is for you if you are a person that is interested in entrepreneurship, if you are a person that is interested in building product, if you are a person that is interested in technology, if you are a person that is interested in seeing how all of these new tools, where the rubber meets the road, if you're a person that has a hunch that there's something there for you, but you haven't known how to find your way into it, uh, this is there for you. If you are a solopreneur that is working in your home most of the time and you don't get a lot of feedback, you don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about what you're doing, what you're building, what your ideas are, and get relevant feedback from peers that understand that, this is for you. If you're a person that's looking for someone else to maybe build alongside, this is for you. If you're a person that goes to startup and small business networking events and find them to be lacking in some kind of concrete follow through, some kind of real definitive value that you get out of it, this is for you. If any of that I just said is making your hair stand up, this is for you. Ultimately, inclusivity is extremely important to me. I live in a very diverse city, and one of the things that is very, very important is to, without any reservation, make sure that every single person that hears what I'm saying understands that the diversity of our world is what makes us great. I have long thought that genius products are not produced by two coders stuck in a room together without context of the world that's going around them. I think that real innovation happens when someone from a very disparate part of the world and someone else from a very disparate part of the world come together and they share what their ideas are, right? Like, I think that you're more likely to find crazy innovation when a barber meets a coder, or when a data scientist meets a mom that is, seeing a problem that's happening every day during the pickup line at school, right? Like, those are the breadbasket of innovation, right? Innovation happens when conflicting things come together, right? When people with different perspectives come together and they share and they talk about them. So, like, for that reason, don't think that there's any one thing about you that precludes you from being the right person to come to this thing. If you have a hunch that this is for you, I would encourage you to get a ticket and come and show up. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to find out that maybe it's not for you, that maybe this hunch that you have isn't something that you're that interested in. But I'd be willing to bet that you're going to walk away with the validation that you've been looking for, right? That you can build something cool, that this thing is for you, that your idea is cool, and you shared it with someone else and they said the same thing back to you. So, just from a clarification perspective, right? If any of this is your vibe, please come out to this event and pour your energy into it, because it will be better for you having shown up. So now that we know who this is for, I think that it's reasonable to say who it is for not. And when I say that, like, I don't want to exclude anybody on blanket terms. But maybe it's not so much who it's not for as it is so much what types of behaviors it's not for. What it's not for, and this was very true even when we were doing startup soiree. Like, we were very encouraging and uh, encouraging of this behavior. Discouraging of this behavior is to show up and be flinging business cards just as a connection thing. Like, this is not a coffee, like, networking event to try and get more leads for your healthcare service, right? This is not a networking event to show up and get leads to, like, make company swag for startups. Like, this is not a place for you to show up and prospect for like new startups for your law firm. It's not transactional. That is not the goal of it at all. The goal of it is to learn and to build and to be supportive and to really immerse yourself in the conversation of that thing. So if you see networking and startup events as an opportunity for building your business in a very direct business development kind of way, this one's not for you, right? This is a first step towards building a community with a very specific intent and interest of supporting one another and learning from one another. So if you are hearing this and you're making your list of where to go out this week to fling your business cards, I would say probably a pass would be the right thing for you to do. There could be some things that Baltimore Creators does down the line that could potentially align better with that. Although I would say, from a philosophical perspective, that generally speaking, that's just not the way to do it. Don't be transactional anywhere you go. Take the time to get to know the people that are there. Take the time to ask questions. Like, know their name well enough that you can just look them up on LinkedIn. Or if we end up relaunching the Baltimore Creators online community, like that could be a great place to be able to connect with them. But long story short, if you're looking to be transactional, this is not the event for you to do that. So I think like one of the things that I want to delve into here, and this will be the last thing, is the ritualistic side of this, right? It's the co-working that happens before the builder side. Anything worth doing takes time, and time involves right, breaking the ice, getting out of your nerves, getting well adjusted into the room. And what I really want to make sure is that by the time we get to the 3 to 5 o'clock, by the time we get to the event, one, like, it's intentionally 2 hours for a few reasons. One, we're doing this thing on a Friday, and you know 5 o'clock hits on a Friday and people are ready to go and be social, and they should do that. I've been talking a lot about if you are a person that feels like you need to be working in your business until 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night or a Saturday, I think you're doing it wrong. I think that you need to look at your systems and become more proactive. But that being said, like, I know that. So I want to be able to have some of that Friday happy hour vibes start to creep in, but also I want it to be reasonable and I don't want to keep people too late. The other side of it is the event is 2 hours because I don't want it to be networky, right? I want that 3 to 5 period of time to be about the presentation, right? So we're going to keep it tight. Like, it's going to start at 3 and it's going to end at 5. And inside of those 2 hours, like, we're going to see some cool shit. We're going to learn about some cool shit. We're going to do some cool shit. Like, at some point, I definitely want to do like the whole room build something together in that moment, right? There's like somebody on the keyboard running the thing while we're all sourcing the prompts together, right? We're like building this thing. It'll be up on the screen. We've got a great facility that has a big screen for presentation on it. So we're able to do that whole side of it, right? This group coding thing. But that being said, like, I want the event to be a vibe. And for us to be able to do that, right, we need to have that lead up to. And I think by being able to co-work together, by being able to have this kind of like, 5 hours prior to the event kicking off, will allow people to get into their space, to figure things out, to get comfortable with the room, to do all those things. So when we do finally swing into it, it's really ready to go, right? So when we do finally hit that bell at 3 o'clock and we start the event, we don't have to do a warm up process. We don't have to do all of that stuff that would maybe come more naturally in a 3 hour long networking event where there's 90 minutes of mingling that happens before getting into the main frame. So, this is a hypothesis. We're going to see how it works, right? Like, there's a great chance that I'm wrong and that the 10 to 5 thing isn't going to be a play, right? There's a great chance that I'm wrong and a late afternoon event series isn't going to be the play. But that's the thing with hypothesis, right? you craft it and you roll it out. Like one of the reasons that I'm doing it on a Friday is that I think that it would probably be harder for people to leave out of their businesses or out of their companies on a Tuesday to do something like this, right? I think that theoretically doing some co-working on a Friday could make more sense. It could be easier for people to handle. I think that co-working with like-minded people and like the idea of co-working spaces is just like, right, it's like this big room and people have their cubicles and there's some common space, but there's often not so much mingling and mind share that's happening there. And I think that there's a really good chance for figuring out how to prime that pump. One of the things that I have been thinking about the last few years as well, and I'd love to see this grow into, is doing like some co-work outside stuff. And maybe this spring we'll get into that, where we rent a pavilion in a state park and we make sure that it's got good Wi-Fi and the whole community meets up there, right? The programming is there for the day where we're able to code and we're able to do work and we're able to mingle and build business and do all that stuff. We're doing it in an interesting environment where, maybe there's a morning hike that precedes it. Maybe there's an afternoon hike. Maybe there's these other things that bring health and joy into building businesses, right? I think that there's an opportunity for a paradigm shift, and this is my first pass at trying to experiment with what that paradigm shift might look like. So I'm going to wrap up this edition of the Ground Control Podcast now with some simple calls to action. If this sounds like it is for you, what I need you to do right now is to head over to BaltimoreCreators.com, BaltimoreCreators.com, and get on the list. I don't have the tickets on sale quite yet, but I do have a form set up that if you want to get invited, you can get on the list. I also have the first 3 events and their event dates. They're there, so you'll see what the topics are going to be like. So go get on the list. I'm going to have the pre-sale start any day now, probably the beginning of next week. I'll send out an email when I do that. But if this sounds like it's something for you, please head on over, sign up. If this sounds like something for someone you know, please share this podcast with them. Share that URL with them. Let them know about this cool new thing that's going on. If you are part of an organization, whether you're at Johns Hopkins or you are at UMBC or you are at Loyola or you are at Stevenson, community colleges of Baltimore County, Baltimore City Community College, Howard, Morgan, any of these universities that are here, high schools that have entrepreneurial programs, high schools that have computer development programs, organizations inside of the city, right? Whether you're a part of Upsurge or any of the other kind of startup grind networks, help me amplify this. Help me get the word out there, because the more people that we can pull into this community, the richer it will become. That's it. I'm super excited for this. This is Ground Control. I'm Patrick Reif. I can't wait to kick this off. I can't wait till next week. I'm having so much fun. As I wrap up, I'm just going to say, if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I do my very best to engage with every single comment on every video. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever, make sure that you like and subscribe so that way you get notified each week when we publish a new episode. But otherwise, until next week, I'm Patrick Reif, and this is Ground Control. Peace.